Welcome to the Remington Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things ammunition. I'm your host, Audrey Mayes, and today I'm sitting down with Director of Centerfire Products, Chris Carson, Research and Development Engineer, Logan Henry.
Glad to be on today.
And Head of Research and Development, John Langenfeld.
How you doing, everybody?
We just got back from SHOT Show in Vegas, and we released a slew of new rifle products that we're here to talk about today. And let's start with good old Core-Lokt. It's the bread and butter of Remington, and we got some new cool stuff that I know we want to talk about. So
easy for you to say. Core-Lokt.
Core-Lokt. Yep.
Two things on the Core-Lokt line. First one that we brought to market this year was the 300 HAMR. That was a cartridge that we partnered with Bill Wilson from Wilson Combat on. He developed the cartridge. What it is, it's a cartridge that's based off of the 223 shell case, where he's done some stuff with the dimensions on the shell to lengthen it. Fits in a standard 223 magazine. Uses a 223 bolt face, 5.56 bolt face. So it was designed around the AR. Higher velocities, higher muzzle velocity, and higher energy than the standard stuff that's coming out of there on the 30 cal side. So higher than the 300 blackout. So you're seeing performances that even exceed a 30-30, but now you've got it in a smaller shell that's ready for an AR platform. So we've launched that. That's a 125 grain bullet and PSP round that everybody would be familiar with on the Core-Lokt side.
Yeah, so good old Core-Lokt bullet. And
these guys put it together for us.
Yeah, you guys did all the research and development, obviously. How did it perform? What was it like?
I think it performs pretty well from what we've seen so far. 125 grain bullet. It's good to see, somewhere in the 200 to 300 feet per second, better than your 300 blackout. So I think that's a good thing. I think this is a cartridge that you definitely take out hunting. Blackout for me, I'd be a little on the fence, but I'd definitely take this one out. So we like what we've seen so far.
Well, and Bill's shot a lot of game with it already.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's taking it all over the world.
Sent pictures of the stuff that he's, harvested with it and everything. So like Logan said, I think it's a better killer than the blackout from a hunting standpoint. And we're not worried about shooting subsonic stuff with it, so you don't have to worry about that it works in those type of gas systems and things like that. And I think there's some, maybe some lightweight bolt guns out there that you can chamber it in as well if you didn't want to use the AR. But, it's, like the word says, it's a little bit more of a hammer than the blackout.
Yeah, and we tested some bolt guns back in the sales meeting, but one cool thing working with Bill, since he's close, you guys sent him bullet samples. Hey, this is what we're thinking, and he added input to what you guys had created and, okay, tweak this, adjust this, let's turn some knobs. And
yeah, Bill's been good to work with.
Very knowledgeable.
Absolutely. He's very knowledgeable about this cartridge, kind of what we want for overall length, how we want our bullet profiled, things like that. So it's been nice to have that knowledge
mush
added
samples
to the project.
back. And we've
Absolutely.
never had that.
Yeah, I know. Usually we've got to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, smart guy, real fun to work with. So
yeah, kind of a legend. And if you've been following along with the Bill Wilson from Wilson Combat and following his hunts that he shot this, now you can buy it in a Core-Lokt.
That's right.
He went to Africa and killed a lot of planes game with it even. So
dropped his phone out of a plane. That's what he said.
Yeah, So 300 HAMR is going to come out, and I think it's really going to make some waves. It's technically a wildcat, isn't it, that we're bringing to Sammy, or has it already been brought?
No, it's Sammy accepted already. Yeah, it was fairly recent. But prior to that, you could have called it a wildcat. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Sammy accepted cartridge, and so I think we're maybe second, third player in the game, probably one of the biggest. Once we get it out there, and like you said, what better type of bullet to do it in than Core-Lokt?
Right.
Yeah. So that, our entry level price point on a hunting bullet. So even if you're just wanting to target shoot, it gets you in there at that economical round. So, that was what our objective was, and, more bullets to follow potentially. So get the groundwork going.
Yeah. And another one that we're bringing out that we're pretty excited to introduce to the Remington line of Core-Lokt is 400 Legend.
Yep. So that came out a few years ago, of course, and it was a gap in our line. So, we knew that. We can't just tailor to what we've developed and created. We've got to work with what else is out there in the industry. So 400 Legend was a hole we needed to fill.
Yeah. And you guys, again, have been developing it. So how's it going?
Yep. So brand new bullet for us, you know, in that caliber with a 210 Core-Lokt. And it's going to fulfill, you know, the demand in those straight wall states like 360 buck hammer. So it's going to fall in between your, you know, 350 Legend, you know, the 35 cal stuff, and then you've got the 450 Bushmaster up there. So kind of going in the middle with performance and bullet weight and velocity and everything. I hear that things, you know, that's been accepted well in amongst consumers. So we're going to get on that bandwagon. And again, what better bullet for shooting whitetails than a Core-Lokt? So, you know, good performance, and hopefully we'll see that, you know, take off just like we have some other stuff.
Yeah. I know there's some people out there that only buy Remington ammunition. We love you guys. And so we're pretty excited to add these to our line so you guys can go out and buy those guns.
210 grain bullet. So we're, you know, right there what the market's after. Terminal performance. These guys will work on that once the bullet gets finished. But like John said, it's a new bullet. Basically, you're stretching out a 40 S&W now to a longer shell. So it's a bullet we've not used on the hunting side. So we're starting from the ground up on the bullet side. So it's not just a grab and plug and play situation. So
Yeah,
new
bullet design. Yeah. Jacket, you know, lead antimony, you know, some stuff that these guys like to work on because you get out and you get to shoot gelatin, get the terminal performance, look at your penetration depths, look at your expansion, look at your weight retention. So we've got to be able to create a bullet that toes the line for Core-Lokt performance, and, you know, gives those consumers what they expect out of that bullet.
Other than it being a Core-Lokt bullet, you're kind of starting from zero, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we know what a Core-Lokt should do, how it should perform to fall into family with a mush type, penetration depth, things like that. But from a caliber standpoint, we don't have Core-Lokts in that caliber in rifle.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was pretty much a clean slate. We know the caliber. We know where we want to be with the bullet weight. So after that, you know, we make it work.
Yeah. I know. And this is, I don't think this is your project,
This
Leland.
one is not mine.
But the research and development engineer that is working on it is pretty excited.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So
He's ready to go, you know,
Shoot
see it all work and get it in the hands of consumers and see the field reports and read all of what everybody has to say about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into bullet design. I mean, especially, you know, you don't just build the bullet. You've got to tool up the machines and put it through process. So,
Well, yeah, there's all the tooling design, die design, punch design, each component with jacket, with lead. You got to make all those, you know, the components mesh so that you have a jacket of the right weight. Core has to match in the weight. How hard is the core? What's the anneal on the jacket so that you have the right rate of expansion? The profile of the jacket, how it tapers. So it's an iterative process. We typically do, you know, a few, and we can tailor that from what we see. And then you're incorporating near term, or I say near term, short terminal performance. So distance wise, you know, it's got to work at 50, 25 yards. A lot of people in those kind of states have close range shots. So you don't want a bullet that's going to blow up. Of course, Core-Lokts don't, but we've got to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're looking at what's it do if you do shoot a deer at 25 yards versus 200 yards. You still want a bullet to expand and everything in between. So it's not a daunting task for somebody that, you know, knows bullet design, but it's not just, you know, plug and play. Here's this, put it together, get the velocity, and it works. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge drawn out, I'll put your heart into it kind of process.
Absolutely.
Especially when it wears the Remington name. So you came up through research and development, didn't you? Ballistics. Okay.
So, but back on the Core-Lokt side,
Yeah.
you know, this is something 80 plus years. You know, we've got catalogs downstairs that go back to the 20s, but you can open it and see Core-Lokt.
Right.
So, you know, 30-06 or whatever, even from the 1920s to the 30s, you know, this, not only the brand, but the product, you know, it's still alive and we're still adding to it. So it's a cool refresher, you know, to keep adding. Hey, we're not just loading the same, you know, 180 30-06 that we did 80 plus years ago, but we're adding new cartridges as the market needs them.
Yeah. Keeping the family alive, really. And we keep innovating. So moving on, I mean, that's what's coming out for Core-Lokt, right? Classic Core-Lokt. We also have Core-Lokt Tipped, which is a tipped bullet, but we came out with a 300 rum this year.
Sure. So just a line extension, and we, you know, that's the Remington cartridge, the Remington Ultra Mag family. So when we came out with the Core-Lokt Tipped, we didn't have that initially in there. So this is filling a gap in the 180 grain line. So we've got the Premier Long Range. We have, we have a standard Core-Lokt, and now we've got the Core-Lokt Tipped that we can offer as well.
Yeah, which is pretty good for ballistic coefficients, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, velocity wise, we're looking at something similar to, what you'd see in the other lines. So you can tailor, what you like to your gun, and expect similar velocities, that you would out of the other loads.
Mm-hmm. And so if you're shooting Core-Lokt Tipped, are you, if I'm a long range shooter, is that what I'm reaching for?
Well, you got to define long range.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get to that point. Right. So every bullet's got a performance window and a distance velocity at which it will not open. Okay. So when you say long range, are you talking, what's long range to you? Is it 300, 400, 500 yards? Is it 1,000 yards? So Core-Lokt Tipped is going to perform like Core-Lokt. And so it's not that 600 plus type range bullet unless you're, again, it's based on velocity. So unless you start it really fast and you can meet that minimum velocity at extended ranges because of the cartridge that you're using. So in general, Core-Lokt Tipped is going to be like Core-Lokt. I would say normal hunting distances, not optimized for the extended ranges, call it, 5, 6 and beyond. That's going to be more the Premier Long Range,
right,
in the name. That's the Spear Impact bullet. And so that one's built from the ground up to have a lower required impact velocity for expansion. And we've got marketing images, and the engineers collected data out to 1,000 yards depending on the cartridge, and the bullet has terminal performance.
Yeah, I mean, for me, 500 yards, that's really reaching.
Yeah,
So
which
I guess
this bullet,
it
it's gonna have a better BC than what your standard Core-Lokt would.
Yeah.
So it's going to shoot a little bit flatter, but if you're a long range shooter, you probably dial already, or you have your hold mark set. So, I mean, one way or another, I know that there's a lot on the tipped bullet craze, and I think this is a great addition to satisfy people who, want to shoot that tipped bullet that's got a little better BC.
Yeah. Speaking of the tipped bullet craze, we just launched a whole new product family called Core-Lokt Tipped Lever Gun, which is, we've already released it in 360 Buckhammer, but we called it 360 Buckhammer Tipped. And now we have a whole product family on it. Can you run us through what the Core-Lokt Tipped Lever Gun is all about?
So when we launched the Buckhammer, one of the questions was, hey, I've got a lever gun. Is it safe? So the concern often is the tip of the bullet touching the primer of another shell above it in a magazine. So to take care of that with a tipped bullet, we've got a flat tip on there. So now your contact surface is not pointed. You have a flat top on the bullet. So that alleviates any concern of a touch off in a tubular magazine. We've got 5 calibers that we added to the 360. So we've got the 30-30 150s, 32 Win Special, 35 Remington, 444 Marlin, and 4570 Government. So these bullets are the same weights that we offer in standard Core-Lokts. So you're wanting to shoot a tip bullet now. There is a higher BC, so it's not just, hey, I want to shoot a tip bullet. There is a higher BC associated with adding the tip, so there is some performance improvement there. But now we've got 6 cartridges in that line, and you can shoot a tip bullet in a lever gun.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about a tip bullet and a lever gun?
So the one thing that I like about it is it's got a flat meplet. The front of the bullet, it's flat. So when you look at energy transfer, think about taking something that's sharp and pointed and trying to stick it in a block of Jell-O or in a swimming pool. Think about sticking your finger in it versus slapping it with something that's of a larger. You're going to transfer energy quicker, and for the type of game that you're shooting with those type of bullets, that's why a lot of people like them. Because you typically, whether it's a round nose, but these are big flat tips, and the profile and the ogive is a little sleeker. So in calculations, the BC is a little higher, but you're not going to get lead deformation in your magazines under recoil, and you got that nice big green flat meplet on there, the tip. So when they hit hard. You can see that shock, and I know. Individuals here in Arkansas that used to hunt deer with 30-30s up until their eyes were poor enough that they needed to use a scope and couldn't fathom scoping a lever action. And so started using like a 30-06. And anecdotally had perception, that it didn't kill as quickly, didn't kill as well. And though you're launching that bullet at a much higher velocity, shooting Spitzer bullets, your energy, your rate of transfer, pass-throughs, things like that, they felt like that the 30-30 was actually more effective, and they got more instantaneous kills in a heart-lung area. So sometimes you can shoot things in the shoulder, whatever. It doesn't matter what you shoot it with, it's going to drop. But in that heart-lung type shot, it seemed to be more effective without a deer running a certain distance. And so that big maplet on these cartridges, classic lever gun cartridges, you're going to have a lot of energy transfer. You're going to get that typical Core-Lokt expansion and, good accuracy. So, I mean, there's no reason not to go get some of these.
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing typical about Core-Lokt expansion. I mean, it's big time. Isn't it like twice the size?
It's big, yeah, at least 1.5. Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
So deep penetration, good expansion. I mean, it's not just a weak varmint type bullet. I mean, they open good, and that's because of the design, and probably you can use them on bigger game than what a lot of people think, but they do penetrate very well. But they're reliable. You can shoot them over and over and over again, pull them out of a gel block, and they look the same.
Yeah.
Even today, I've seen other podcasts where they've talked about Core-Lokt, and you pull one out and they set it on the table, and it looks like the magazine ad that says the deadliest mushroom in the woods looks the same. And so, that just speaks to the design, the robustness of the design, the tolerance for impact velocity, so that it's not just pedaled back just a little bit versus, blowing apart. And you're going to see that in these bullets as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see new stuff coming out for Remington. I mean, like we talked about before, just adding things to the product families just keeps our brand alive. And the Core-Lokt Tipped Lever Gun really brings the lever gun into the 21st century.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
I think a refresher is great for that. I mean, until recently with some of these and, doing some testing with some of these lever guns, being, I guess, a younger generation, I didn't have much correlation to that. I grew up with like a 243 rather than that. And it's kind of been like, this is, some of these are not as, I think a lot of people think of them as just walloping, and they're pleasant. And I think a good refresher might, even bring some new people to the market on it. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about the 4570. That's the only lever gun that I have. The little, Marlin 4570. And I mean,
little?
It's not little. I mean, it kicks the snot out of me, but
soft recoil.
Beginner gun. And I'm excited to shoot some Core-Lokt lever gun tipped out of it. So, speaking of new products, if you haven't seen it yet, we do have the new product catalog. It is on the Remington website. So if you want to go to remington.com and check that out, it has all of our new products in it. And also, we want to hear you guys' thoughts on, new cartridges, Wildcat cartridges. What do you want to see Remington come out with? You can leave it in the comments and we'll get back to you on that. Any last comments about our new stuff, guys?
It's show season, so we're showing it around. You said, we just got back from SHOT. John and I will be at Western Hunt out in Utah. There's shows, NWTF will have booths. So we'll be out and about. So come talk to us.
Yeah, consumer shows are where it's at, y'all.
Yeah, buy some of our new products. We're excited for you guys to comment, what you think as you test it. So
yeah, definitely. And if you want to reach these guys or me, you can email us at podcast@remington.com.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay.
There you have it, guys. Remington is on the rise. Like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this podcast with your hunting or shooting buddies. Thanks for listening.